Lena Nguyen. The daughter of Vietnamese immigrants, Lena Nguyen lives with her partner in the alien desert of Arizona. She received her MFA in fiction from Cornell University, where she also taught courses in English, writing, and zombies. She works in game development while she's working on her next novel. Lena, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to be reading an excerpt for my novel, We Have Always Been Here today. And the context for this excerpt is that the protagonist's guardian android is named Glenn, kind of a mix between her bodyguard and her chaperone. While he is ultimately a robot, he looks like a human and is extremely close to her and is basically her only friend. Alexia is a girl who has been bullying the protagonist Park for a little while and is now harassing Glenn in this scene. So I will start. Glenn, let's go, she said. You don't have to be so protective, Alexia said, still with that round-eyed look of innocence. I was just trying to make conversation. No one's going to steal your walking vibrator. Park turned to her icily and slapped her, open-handed. The force and suddenness of the blow surprised even Park, who felt as if someone had unhinged her own arm and moved it for her. There was a stunned silence, staring. Even Glenn looked vaguely surprised. Alexia's cheek reddened in the afternoon's golden glow. Then she said, "You bitch," and wound her hand back. Harry Bip made a kind of hooting noise. Park tensed, and her mind leapt through several strategies, discarding them before the next instant had even passed. She wasn't interested in diffusion or escape, more in overpowering Alexia, incapacitating her, teaching her not to do this again. How much could she hurt her without veering into the domain of the criminal? And would Harry intervene? Park wouldn't win if it was 2 against 1. She had no more time to think. Here came Alexia's hand blurring through the air. Park rounded her shoulder to fend off the blow and said against her will, "Stop." Glenn moved suddenly. His hand clamped down on Alexia's wrist, catching it in midair. The contact made a hollow clapping sound. Then he looked at Alexia and said quietly, "I'm sorry, but I will not permit this. You will do no harm to Grace Park." Alexia gave a kind of scream, a horrible sound, like a train whistle in a movie. "Get off me," she shouted. "Don't touch me, you fucking clunker." At this, Harry Bip lunged forward and swung his open hand at Glenn's head, roaring like a bear. How absurd, Park thought blurrily as she watched him stumble forward, pinwheeling his arms to maintain balance. It was like an old cartoon, all of them standing there trading slaps. Glenn, who had faded backward with the blow, said, "That was dangerous. If I hadn't moved, you could have damaged your hand." "Glenn," Park said, and he released Alexia's wrist smoothly. "I apologize," he said to the girl, who was clutching her wrist as if it was in danger of falling off. "I am first and foremost Grace Park's guardian. My protection protocols—" "Help," she was shrieking. "Help, it's attacking us." Some passerby had witnessed the altercation, 2 businessmen and a female student. Park saw that they were hurrying over. Whether they knew Glenn was an android, she didn't know. Perhaps all they'd seen was 2 young couples squabbling. But no, she thought. If they thought that, they wouldn't bother interfering. She could see in the whiteness around their lips that they thought they knew what was going on. Rogue android, they were thinking. It's finally happening. We've known it all along. The riots never really went away, Park thought. "We need to go," she said to Glenn. She touched his sleeve. "Where?" His voice was flat and calm. She could see the sensors in his eyes spinning, analyzing the situation. "They are blocking the only exit from the schoolyard." "Into the school," Park said. "Wait it out until things calm down." But Glenn was shaking his head. "It would not be strategically sound to trap ourselves in a building," he said, "particularly one occupied solely by other synthetics." They'd quietly edged back from the center of the commotion by now. Harry Bip was holding the sobbing Alexia as if she might fall to pieces without his embrace to hold her together. The female student was recording the goings-on with her wrist console, smirking in a tight, nervous way. The 2 businessmen were listening to Alexia's story, looking over at Glenn and Park suspiciously. One of them was calling someone on their teletooth. "You, the one who wasn't calling," said to Glenn. "Come here." "Stay," Park said. Glenn gave no sign that he had heard the businessman address him. "Is that your bot?" the man asked. He was young, not that much older than she, a recent college grad, she would have guessed. His arms were too thin for his clear vinyl suit. She said it just attacked her. She attacked me, Park answered coldly. My android just prevented further violence. It's in his programming. I think it's going to have to be taken in. She felt as if someone had injected lead into her spine. I'll see to that, she said. Who are you? We run a robot repair firm, he said, gesturing to himself and the other businessman who was still on the phone. We handle problem bots, malfunctioners. Great, Park said. She suddenly realized that she couldn't unclench her fists. You should turn it over to us. We'll take a look at it and repair whatever's going on in its head. We saw the whole thing. That's not programming. It is. It's not. Look, we'll give you the receipt. You can come pick it up in a day or two. When Park didn't answer, the angle of the man's shoulders sharpened. All she could read was anger and fear in the lines of his body. He swayed as if preparing to charge. You really need to turn it over. If not to us, then to somebody. Defective chaptroids can be a real menace if they're let loose without corrective programming. I am not defective, Glenn said tonelessly. My systems are operating at optimal capacity. The man didn't look at him. It wouldn't know if it was defective, he said to Park. That's the whole point. The part that should know it's malfunctioning is malfunctioning itself. He's fine, Park snapped. Leave us alone. Unless you're the police. Get the police. This was Alexia from amidst the storm of her tears. It hit me. God damn you, Park thought. But before she could reply, she saw the younger businessman nod to the older one, who was now off the phone. There was a crowd of people in the schoolyard now. Students who hadn't gone far and who had returned when they heard the commotion. Excited laborers and office workers on their routes home from work. Someone said, turn it off, the switch is in its throat. And Park could feel her body drifting in front of Glenn's, stiff, solid, as if she were a glacier. Glenn said quietly, what is the usual procedure in such a case? I don't know, Park said. She couldn't turn to look at him. People were approaching them, hesitantly, trying to see how to move her neatly out of the way. Self-defense is required, Glenn said, prompting. Yes, Park said. It always is. Glenn stepped out from behind her then. There was suddenly something small and black in his hand. Park couldn't see it clearly from her periphery. He said calmly, please let us exit peacefully. Now. That was all he said. But everyone stopped. A kind of hard, frozen silence fell over the crowd. No one moved. Even Alexia stopped crying. She only stared at Glenn, then at Park, with that classic round-eyed look like a startled infant. Glenn put his hand on Park's back with infinite gentleness and said, thank you. We will leave now. And then they left. The crowd parted for them like water flowing around a rock. Park could feel her shoulders tensing as they passed through, expecting a surprise blow to the face, a hot flash of pain in the back. But there was nothing. No one even turned to watch them go. Why? Park said when they made it a block or two away. She looked behind them, but no one was following. The streets were now empty. She hadn't realized how fast her blood had been thudding that entire time. She could feel her heartbeat in her fingertips. Glenn's left hand was still on her back. It was this, he said, and he showed her his right hand briefly. Park felt the blood drain out of her head. Glenn was holding a gun. And that is it.